Greetings, friends, crew member of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft. It's the only one we have. And since the last time we met, it has taken another turn about its material access and, of course, continues creating events in full development. There's a decision to be made in the Middle East. For example, Israel has the most powerful lobby in the government of states, and they're great at managing it. They're extremely professional. They study all the politicians that they care about when they need to vote. They contribute. Lest we forget that El Sharon was here with us. And we had a long talk based on this. That's why I was invited as the official guest to the Chancellery. I was invited to visit Israel, and it was the Hebrew University of Jerusalem with a beautiful and strong debate. And right now, the interests of the pro-Israeli lobby are exercised very professionally. I've studied this in the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy for decision-making. And the most important ones, the pro-Israeli lobby and the military industry. However, they weren't part of the pensum, but we studied this and we followed this closely. So the Middle East, and, well, when Israel is set to test a decision with Israel, the decision is, are you going to worry in order to bring your embassy to Jerusalem, yes or not? So Jerusalem has an international status according to the United Nations. It was created with a historical voting where all countries contributed. Well, so apparently, now, if your embassy does not transfer or move to Jerusalem, it will not be very good for a lot of places. And this has been a type of blackmailing that's been elegant and it's recurrent. And of course, it's an eventful development that we're going to share with you. And because of this, we're going to show you the following. What do we have here? This is the other side of the world, Australia, that considers the possibility of acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Mr. Morrison, the first thing that I would like to emphasize very strongly is the commitment of the government to a two-state solution in the Middle East. It has always been and will always be the policy in Australia based on the resolution of problems of Israel and Palestine.
But at the same time,
what we see and is being open to these suggestions in order to move forward, and I will not do anything in order to do things better, in order to foster the Australian policies.
Considering the question of the capital are taboo, I think we have to challenge that.
Al mismo tiempo, siempre estamos haciendo esto como manejándolo como si fuera un tabú y la ortodoxia.
We always force this as a taboo, and I don't think that this is the most important or the only way. Australians are people with a lot of progress, and we're going to demonstrate the courage of our convictions in order to look at this and work in different ways because the other things haven't been so successful.
Review without prejudice.
Review without prejudice. According to the nuclear regime in Iraq. According to the Joint Action Plan, it is still appropriate for our purposes. This is a significant vote. Our government will vote against the resolution. We will vote for this because we don't believe in the creation of a specific status that will continue with the cause of moving parties towards a solution of two-state. Then he added that Australia will consider acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and bring its embassy there from Tel Aviv starting on Tuesday the 1st. This is Palestine, the Palestinian thing in Indonesia, criticizing Prime Minister of Australia for acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. We saw what happened. al-Maliki, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, said, "It's a very sad news because they're violating international law. They're violating international relations of the United Nations and the 1980 resolution. And if Australia is going to disrespect, then what is left for us?"
Risking Australia's trade and business relationship with the rest of the world, in particular Arab.
Australia, by doing so, is risking the commercial relationship with the rest of the world, particularly with the Arab and Muslim world. And I think that Australia should reconsider their position before carrying out this action with electoral goals. So you're doing so for electoral reasons. They won the pro-Israeli votes. The Chancellor of Israel said Australia must respect the peace process of Palestine and Israel based on a two-state solution and not make any distance that will threaten the security of the world. And Scott Morrison also provided her opinions on this. The President of Indonesia, Joko Widodo, was also part of the meeting. They were all heavyweights for that part of the planet. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Palestine, Riyad Maliki, described the declaration of the Prime Minister that was open to acknowledge Jerusalem as the capital of Israel as very sad news. He was quite discreet. So Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia, were for the circumstances. And as we said yesterday, Syria, the Golan Heights, the never-ending topic, the Quneitra Cross in Syria and the Golan Heights occupied illegally by Israel, violating all United Nations resolutions. And here in Quneitra, many flags of Syria been brought. This is a crossing area with the flag of Israel and the United Nations flag too. And Marianne Gasser, the manager of the delegation of the International Committee of the Red Cross in Syria, said that the role of the International Committee of the Red Cross was an intermediary to allow the crowds of people from Golan occupied by Syria and bring them back to the Golan also occupied illegally.
Afterwards to the occupied Golan.
Mahmoud
Atabel said, "We are returning to our normal life and we can at least visit our families and friends." The United Nations troops there, the heights of the Golan occupied by Israel, and they're very important because it's a high hill and they're allowed to act and work. When you go there, I've been there, and I have to bear witness, you understand the importance of the Golan Heights. The border cross between Quneitra and the side of Syria, the heights of Golan militarily occupied by Israel, was open on Monday once again. The Syrian flag was waving with the police and representatives of Quneitra as well as different military members. Marianne Gasser from the Red Cross in Syria attended the reopening ceremony. Russia is in the heart of Egypt, according to Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and they chose a good place to do so. They are with the Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev, in Moscow, and Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who's welcomed by the Prime Minister of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev. And Dmitry Medvedev, in this bilateral meeting, provided all the hierarchy needed because it's due to very important areas of foreign policy for Moscow and, of course, for the rest of the planet as well. Dmitry Medvedev said, "Tomorrow in Sochi, there are going to be talks with my colleague Vladimir Putin. We're going to sign an agreement on the strategic association. This is a new stage for the development of our relationships that are very friendly so far." With this and with the pictures, of course, the message was sent, and Fattah al-Sisi said, "Russia and President Vladimir Putin supported our positions through hard times. We will never forget this." Fattah al-Sisi said Russia holds a very important place in the hearts of all Egyptians.
كمان
Bueno, aquí dicen, espero que el cruce en los próximos años se termine
I
la
hope that
construcción de la central
we will be
nuclear de
able to
Dabá, y
finish
creo
the
que eso se
construction
convertirá
of
en
the
uno de los
BA,
motores de
and
desarrollo
this
de la
will be a new development
cooperación
factor
entre
for
nuestros dos países.
cooperation between both of our countries.
Quisiera asegurarles que nuestras
I would
puertas
like to
siempre
ensure that our
están
doors will
abiertas
always be open
para las ventajas del mercado egipcio
for
que
the
pueden
advantage
dominar
of the Egyptian market
buena parte de nuestra agenda.
that could dominate an important
Bueno,
part of our
presidente Sisi de
geopolitics.
Egipto
President Sisi of Egypt
no solo ha cumplido
hasn't only
intensamente con su
fulfilled
protocolo,
his
sino que
protocol,
hace una ofrenda floral
but also
en el muro del Kremlin.
offers a bouquet in the Kremlin.
Entre otras cosas, dijo,
Among
quisiera
other things,
asegurarles,
he said, I
espero
would
que en
like
los
to
próximos
ensure,
años se termine
and I
la
hope that during
construcción de
the
la central
next
nuclear,
years
volvió sobre el
we will
tema de Dabá,
conclude the nuclear
y creo que
section.
esto se
He spoke
convertirá en
again
un nuevo
about the
factor
BA,
de
and this will
desarrollo
be
de
the
la
new development
cooperación
factor
entre
of
nuestros dos
cooperation
países.
between both of our countries.
Enfatizó dos veces el tema de la
He
central
emphasized the
nuclear.
nuclear central
Y
twice.
luego
And then
dice, quisiera asegurarles
said,
que
I would
nuestras
like
puertas
to
siempre
assure that
están
our
abiertas
doors
a los
will always be
inversionistas
open
rusos.
for Russian
Pueden
investors.
aprovechar las
They
grandes
could take
ventajas del mercado
advantage
egipcio,
of what
que
we
puede
offer
denominarse
in the
puertas de
Egyptian
comercio y
market,
inversión a
where
varios
there
países
could be
árabes,
doors
no
for
solamente
trade in
árabes,
different
sino
Arab
también
countries, not only
africanos y
Arab countries, but
asiáticos.
also Asian and African countries.
El presidente egipcio Fatah al-Sisi
Fatah
elogió las
al-Sisi
relaciones con Rusia en las esferas de la energía
spoke
nuclear y el
about
comercio.
the
Y luego
areas in nuclear
puso
energy and
flores
trade, and then
el presidente
offered the
Sisi
floral agreement.
en el muro
President
del
Sisi
Kremlin.
in the Kremlin wall.
Las flores son un homenaje
Flowers
a la tumba del soldado desconocido.
honor the
Aquellos
lost
que mueren
soldiers,
por
those who
diferentes
die
frentes
in different
sin
war
poder ser
fronts
identificados.
without being identified.
Bueno, este sacrilegio de cortar así la hermosa
The
ejecución de esa banda no es
sacrilege
nuestro.
of
Así llegó de
stopping
origen.
the execution of the band is not
Ucrania,
coming from us.
Iglesia, Rusia,
Ukraine,
encabezando
Church,
al
Russia,
patriarca ruso, dice que
with the
espera que la
Patriarch of
Iglesia
Russia, who said
ortodoxa
that he
permanezca
hopes
unida.
that
La
the
profunda fe
Orthodox
cristiana
Church
rusa
will continue
nunca ha sido
united.
desmentida.
They have never spoken against the faith of Russia.
Patriarca ruso
The
ortodoxo
Patriarch
Kirill
of Russia, Kirill,
da unas declaraciones importantes.
providing important statements.
Tenemos que resolver muchas
We
preguntas
need to
importantes.
solve many
Esto incluye
important
reaccionar a
questions,
lo que
including
estaba
reacting
sucediendo
to
hoy en
what
día en
was
la familia de las
happening
iglesias
in the
ortodoxas
family of
y la
Orthodox
situación en
Church,
Ucrania.
as well as the
Espero que la
situation in
Iglesia
Ukraine. I
Ortodoxa
hope
encuentre la
that
fuerza
the
para
Orthodox
superar las
Church will find the
dificultades
strength to
para mantenerse
overcome
unida.
these problems and
Y
to
esto es muy
continue
necesario
united.
para la renovación
This is
espiritual de
needed
nuestras
for
naciones.
the spirit renewal of our countries.
Свое единство, столь необходимое для духовного возрождения наших народов.
El patriarca Kirill, que tiene estrechos vínculos con el
Patriarch
presidente
with
ruso Vladimir
close
Putin,
links
dijo el
with
sábado
Vladimir
13 de octubre
Putin,
que
said
espera
on
que la Iglesia
Saturday that
Ortodoxa
he expects
continúe
the
unida.
Orthodox Church to continue
Pese a los
united.
buenos deseos del patriarca
Regardless
ruso,
of
dos
the
días
desires of
después,
the
al
Patriarch
parecer,
2 days
los
after,
hechos dicen otra cosa,
the facts
parecería.
show differently,
La
apparently.
Iglesia Ortodoxa rusa
The Orthodox
se
Church of
rompe en
Russia
Constantinopla
is breaking in Constantinople
y enfila sobre Ucrania.
and also over Ukraine.
Varios del exterior de la Iglesia Ortodoxa en Minsk,
Many of
Bielorrusia,
the Orthodox Church in Minsk, Belarus,
edificio de Minsk de la administración diocesana del Patriarcado
the
de Moscú,
Minsk building for the Patriarchy of Moscow,
Cantar es una hermosa forma de orar.
Singing is a
y así
beautiful
lo
way
hacen
of
los
praying,
miembros del Santo
and
Sínodo.
that's what they do.
Patriarca Kirill
Patriarch,
jefe de la Iglesia Ortodoxa de Ucrania del Patriarcado de Moscú, tomando asiento.
the most important person of the church.
Metropolitano de Kiev y de
This is the
toda
Metropolitan
Ucrania,
of
y cabeza
Kiev
de la Iglesia Ortodoxa
and the
Ucraniana,
head
y que
of
pertenece al
the
Patriarcado
church
de Moscú.
that belongs to the Patriarchy of Moscow.
Hilarión habla luego
Then
como
speaking
representante de la Iglesia Ortodoxa
about the
rusa
representative
metropolitana,
of the
dice,
Metropolitan Orthodox
la Iglesia
Church,
Ortodoxa de
and he said
Rusia.
the Orthodox Church of Russia.
En reunión de hoy, el Santo
In a
Sínodo se
meeting,
tomó la decisión de
they
cortar por
decided
completo
to
la comunión con el Patriarcado de
break the
Constantinopla.
communion
Esa
with
fue una
the
decisión
Patriarchy
forzada,
of
pero
Constantinople.
nuestro
This
Santo
was
Sínodo
forced,
no puede tomar ninguna
but
otra
the
decisión
Synod cannot make
debido a la
any
lógica
other
de todas las
decision due
acciones
to the logic of all the
tomadas
actions
recientemente
made
por el
recently
Patriarca de
by the
Constantinopla,
Patriarch
y eso
of
es lo que
Constantinople,
condujo a eso.
and this is what led to this.
На сегодняшнем заседании Священного Синода было принято решение о полном разрыве евхаристического общения с Константинопольским патриархатом. Это было вынужденное решение, но иного решения не мог принять наш Священный Синод, поскольку к этому вела вся логика последних действий Константинопольского патриархата.
Nos adelantamos a la traducción para que lo
We will have the
disfrutaran nuestra
translations
colonia rusa.
so the colony of Russia and our country could listen to this in their own language. It was stated, we hope that common sense will continue and that the Patriarchy in Constantinople will change the relationship with the existential reality. But until this happens, while these illegal decisions continue there, then we'll not be able to communicate with the church that today seems to be
Brava palabra esa, ¿eh? Gran
at the
división,
system,
significa.
a great division, it means.
Церковью, оказавшейся сегодня в расколе.
La historia es que la Iglesia Ortodoxa
So,
rusa dijo
the Orthodox
lunes
Church
15
of
de octubre
Russia
que había
said on
decidido
Monday
romper las
that
relaciones
they
con
have
el
decided
Patriarcado
to break
Ecuménico de
relations with
Constantinopla en protesta por
Patriarchy
su
of
respaldo a la
Constantinople,
solicitud de Ucrania de una
protesting
iglesia
their request
autocéfala
of having an
independiente.
independent church.
Bueno, ayer China advirtió a Estados Unidos
China
sobre
warned
el
the
trato
States
con Taiwán.
about
La China nacional.
deals made with Taiwan,
Hoy, sobre
nationalist
buques,
China.
aviones de guerra en el mar del
Today,
sur de China. China refuta
in
la
China,
acusación de Estados Unidos y dice que China
China
tiene una
goes
soberanía
against this and
indiscutible
says that China
sobre las
has
islas del mar de China Meridional.
sovereignty over
Lu Kang, portavoz de la Cancillería
China.
dice,
Lu
la alegación
Kang
de Estados
said
Unidos
the allegation
no
of
es
the
más que hacer
States
un cobro infundado. China
is
tiene una soberanía
just
indiscutible sobre sus islas y las
impossible.
aguas
China
circundantes
has
en el mar del
sovereignty
sur
over
de la
their
China,
islands and
al
their
igual que otros
waters,
países.
as well as
China
other
está ejerciendo su
countries.
soberanía y autoprotección
China
y autodefensa.
is
Llevar a
protecting
cabo actividades
itself,
con fines
carrying out
pacíficos,
activities
incluidas las
with
instalaciones de
peaceful
defensa necesarias en su propio
areas,
territorio,
including
y
the
esto no
necessary
tiene
defense
nada
in
que
their
ver con
country.
la
And this
militarización.
has nothing to do with militarizing.
到南海，抵近中国南海岛礁，甚至擅自闯入中国西沙群岛领海，这个才是在制造紧张，在搞军事化。
Y luego dijo,
Then
no hay
added,
ningún problema en absoluto
we
para
don't
la
have
libertad de
any
navegación
problem
o
with the
sobrevolar el
freedom
mar
for
del sur de la
navigation
China.
or flying
Pero
over
todos han
China,
notado en
but
los
they
últimos
have
años
all
que
noticed for the
Estados
last years that the
Unidos,
States,
bajo el letrero de la libertad de
under
navegación
the
y de
sign
vuelo,
of freedom of
frecuentemente
navigation and
envía aviones de
flight,
guerra
they
y
usually
buques de guerra
send
al sur de China.
aircrafts
El
and
mar,
vessels to
acercándose a las
China,
islas y arrecifes de China, incluso
the sea towards
estrellándose en las
the
aguas
islands and even
territoriales de las
heating
islas
the
Seychelles.
waters of Seychelles
Y esto en
Islands.
realidad crear tensión y participar en la militarización.
And they are
Los
part
llamados
of
buques de guerra
militarization
chinos
in
que
the
acosan con
so-called military
frecuencia
ships
a
of
los buques de
China
guerra
that
estadounidenses.
harass the
El
American
portavoz de
ships.
China,
The spokesman
el
of
Ministerio de
China
Defensa Nacional ha
and
revelado la
the
verdad.
Ministry of
Solo
Defense
quiero
has
decir
shown the
esto.
truth. I just want to
Estados
say
Unidos ha
this. The
enviado barcos de
States
guerra
has sent
a miles de kilómetros
warships
de
to
China al
thousands
paso
of
de la
kilometers
costa
against
china
China
para causar
in
problemas.
order to
Sin
create
embargo,
problems.
acusó a China
However,
de
they
ser la que
accuse
crea
China
problemas.
of being the one
Esto no es
creating the
lógico, es
problems.
absurdo y
This is
ridículo.
not logical. It's absurd and
Bueno,
ridiculous.
Cancillería China,
Well, this is the Chinese
aparece
Chancellor.
obviamente Lu Kang,
Of course, Lu
ese
Kang is
vocero
there,
en la rueda de prensa
the
habitual.
spokesman for
Y el presidente
the
chino
press
Xi
conference,
Jinping
and Xi Jinping
conversa con el rey de Noruega. Gran
speaks with
recepción.
the King of Norway. Great reception for him.
喀拉尔五世对我国进行国事访问。习近平
Harald V llegando
Harald
a la plaza
the Fifth
del-
arriving
a la
at
plaza
the
del este del
square
gran salón del pueblo, ¿no? El mayor salón
near the
techado del
great
mundo,
hall of the
sin
people,
columnas interiores. Hay que estar ahí
the
para ver
biggest
lo
hall
que
in the
es.
world with no columns inside.
Es como un estado techado.
It's like a whole state
Pero
without a roof. With a roof, however, but without columns. It's huge.
acuerdo a las proporciones de
I
China.
remember
Bueno,
the
saludo
size
al
of
protocolo,
China.
los
So the
representantes de ambos
protocol,
gobiernos.
the representatives of both governments.
la gran plaza de Tiananmen, justo frente al salón,
Tiananmen,
y un protocolo exquisito.
and an exquisite protocol.
军乐团奏挪中两国国歌，鸣礼炮21响。
Y ahora suena El Oriente es
The East
rojo.
is red.
Gran parada en uniforme de gala.
The gala
grandes
uniform,
salvos, grandes honores. No siempre se ve
honors.
esto, ¿eh?
We don't always see this.
哈拉尔武士在习近平陪同下，
Una alfombra parecida.
Similar
Última militar con que recibieron a Nixon en aquella época que transmitimos
way
en
to
blanco y
which
negro y le hicimos
Nixon
un
was
video.
welcomed, and we saw this when Nixon came there.
两国元首回到检阅台，观看仪仗队分列式。
El rey observa el desfile militar.
The
de la
king
Guardia
watching
en
the
su honor.
parade in his own honor.
随后，军乐团进行行进吹奏表演。
No es frecuente este tipo de protocolo.
We don't often see this
哈
type
拉
of
尔武
protocols.
士是应习近平的邀请，对我国进行国事访问的。
A la izquierda, Gran Salón del Pueblo.
To the left, the Great Hall of the
La
People,
sala mayor de
and here,
protocolo,
the protocol
diferente al
room.
Gran Salón.
It's different to the Great Hall,
Presidente
of course.
Xi Jinping
Xi Jinping
sostuvo
held
conversaciones
talks
con el rey de Noruega,
with the King
Y el
of
presidente y el rey
Norway,
acordaron inyectar un
and
nuevo
they both
impulso a las
agreed on
relaciones
fostering
China-Noruega en la nueva era,
relationships for
escribiendo
China
un
and
nuevo
Norway
capítulo de la
area
amistad
by writing a
tradicional
new
entre los dos
chapter
países.
of the traditional friendship
El
between
rey
both
está
countries.
en una visita de Estado
The
a
king
China,
is
de ahí el
visiting
protocolo que vimos.
the
Y también
country,
es su cuarto viaje
and
a
it's
China.
his fourth trip to China.
El presidente y el rey fueron testigos
president
de
and
la
the
firma de
king
acuerdos de cooperación bilaterales. Y antes de
Bilateral
la
cooperation
conversación, Xi
agreements,
celebró
and
una
before the
ceremonia para
talks
dar
there
la
was
bienvenida al rey,
a celebration
como
to
acabamos de ver.
welcome the king, as we just saw.
多次来到中国，见证了中国的迅速发展和巨大变化。我这次访华
Bueno, ahora para que vean cómo cuidan
Now,
sus productos,
just to see how they take care of their products, some internal part of China that's also very interesting and part of the
cuando
news.
cambiemos se las cuento. El rey
I'm
está
just
haciendo
going
la
to tell you
visita a
about
China y
this.
también
The
es
king
su
is
cuarto
visiting
viaje al
China.
país, como
Is
le
he's
dijimos.
for
El
this
presidente y el rey han sido
for trip? The
testigos
president
de
and
la
the king
firma
have
de
witnessed
nuevos y muy
the
importantes
signature
acuerdos
of new agreements
que intensifican al máximo la cooperación
that
bilateral.
intensify bilateral
Antes de
cooperation.
estas conversaciones, Xi celebró una
Before
ceremonia,
this,
como
she
vimos,
celebrated a
por todo lado.
ceremony, as we just saw.
También en China,
In China,
9.000 millones de yuanes de multas en China por
9,000
producir vacunas
million yuan
fraudulentas.
of
Ahí cuando alguien hace algo mal,
fines
y
in
sobre todo si afecta a la
vaccines.
salud pública,
If this affects
o a la-
public
o a
health
los intereses del país,
or the
se
interest of
las
the
ve
country,
canutas, ¿no?
they see difficult
Ranchun,
situations
provincia
for
de
them.
Jining, noreste de China.
Rangchun,
Fachada y interior del edificio
This is the
Jiangshen Life Science Limited.
inside of Janssen
La ciudad
Health
de
Limited,
Changchun
Shanyu,
y la ciudad de Jinan, provincia de
and the
Shandong.
Jinan city.
Varios planos de las
Different
enfermeras que
pictures
inyectan vacuna a
of
niños.
nurses
Ciudad de Shuxi,
vaccinating
la
children,
provincia de
Shuxi
Yunnan,
City in
suroeste de
Yunnan,
China, febrero 2018, nota
February
del archivo.
2018, from the
¿Qué hay de todo
files.
esto?
So what's with
Detrás.
all
El
this?
martes las autoridades chinas
On
impusieron
Tuesday, the
multas por más de
authorities imposed
9.100 millones de yuanes.
9.1 billion
1.32
yuan
mil millones
fines,
de dólares
$1.32 billion to those who went against public health orders.
Empresa que producía
The company
ilegal
producing
una vacuna
illegally
contra la
a
rabia
vaccine
humana.
against human rabies.
El Shangyong Kanshen Life
Shangyong
Science
Kanshe Life Science
violó la
Limited
ley de regulación
violated
china
the laws
sobre
of
el
regulation of
manejo de
China for the management of
la
medicines
supervisión de la producción,
and
al producir
the
una
surveillance
vacuna
of
contra la
production
rabia humana,
by
de
creating a
acuerdo con la
vaccine
decisión
for
de
human
sanción
rabies
administrativa
according
tomada
to
por las
the administrative
autoridades
sanction made
y
by
locales
national authorities
en
and
materia
local
de drogas.
authorities for drugs.
La Administración Nacional de Productos
The National
Médicos
Administration
anuló el
of
documento de aprobación de la vacuna
Medicines
contra la
annulled the
rabia y
approval
certificados
against rabies
relativos
as well
a
as certificates relative to this.
durísimo
Very, very strong,
todo lo que afecta al bien común,
and how it affects
sobre todo lo
the
que va por lo ilegal y con
well-being
intereses
and
económicos
everything
China
related
recibe
to
un
illegal
tratamiento
effects in China
no menor a este.
has a very, very tough
Todas
treatment.
las veces que estuvimos allá,
When we were there,
pudimos comprobar
we were
por qué
able to see
coincidencialmente
why they
aparecieron
found some cases as this. This is a very important case, and this is setting a very important benchmark. My satellite monitors, as often, don't show anything better than what we have told you so far, or the part that we have for the second block. So, short break, we'll be back with more events in full development. Stay where you are, we'll be right back. We are back with more events in full development, and among the last events, we have an issue that relates to not the best of moments, Saudi Arabia with Turkey. This is related to the possible violation of diplomacy, of certain representations of Saudi trying to look for a third party that so far, well, I don't know what to say about it so far, but it looks like a James Bond kind of event. So let's take a look at the event in full development, and let's listen to a protagonist tell us about this, because this is very, very important. Tayyip Erdogan said, "In this moment, as you know, as the result of our context, the search process, the consulate has started. There was a process so far, and hopefully we'll reach conclusions as soon as possible, because the investigation needs to be carried out on many things, as toxic materials and other materials that are eliminated by painting them. It will depend on the conclusions that will be drawn from this point." Tayyip Erdogan said the police are looking for toxic materials, and some others have been painted in the embassy recently.
Bueno, Turquía dice, la residencia saudí.
The Saudi residents, I don't know. There's no confession from the Saudis. Mevlut Cavusoglu said the residents of the Saudi consulate and the vehicles will be sought after, and there's no confession on Khashoggi from the Saudis. The Chancellor Mevlut Cavusoglu said, "We need to find what happened with Khashoggi, how he went missing in the consulate of Saudi Arabia. The whole world has turned the eyes to us, and they are wondering things. There's a human life at stake there. It's a journalist, but it's more important the fact that he is a human, and we need to solve this problem."
Evlenmek için bazı belgeleri almak üzere başkonsolosluğa gitti. Yani bir başkonsolosluk şahısların sorgulama yeri değildir. Sorgulama mahkemelerde.
We don't have any information about this, stating that Saudi Arabia is creating a report on admitting Khashoggi's murder, if we follow the last question. The man went to the consulate to get some documents about his wedding, and the consulates are not places for interrogations. They are carried out by the courts as well as the authorities. Then he said, "I don't know what the State Secretary Mike Pompeo will bring for us in Riyadh, because they haven't told us anything yet. I think he will speak about the meetings he had. If a diplomat of Saudi Arabia wants to return to our country, they're free to do so. However, as it happened yesterday, due to the time that we have used, the prosecutor and the specialist went to the consulate, and they worked until 5 p.m. today. The search will continue in the residence, the consulate, and the cars. So this is the character that is missing. It looks like a thriller." Mevlut Cavusoglu said that Turkey has not received a confession about the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi, journalist, after he visited the consulate of Istanbul. Actually, the consulate of Saudi Arabia in Istanbul. The police will check the residence of the consul. So things are getting difficulter. The consulate, the residence, and all the measures. Take a look at the size of the door. We've already seen it in a previous episode. A diplomat said that investigators are going to search the residence of the consul, not only the consulate. Turkish channels have previously shown images of the vehicle leaving the consulate 2 hours after Khashoggi went missing and parked in the residence of the consul. Well, this is something that is not over yet, and of course is in full development, or in development at least. These are two phrases that are copyrighted for quite a long time. If you're not creative, we can help you. In development and full development are registered legally by myself. This is the headquarters of the United Nations in Europe, Geneva, Switzerland. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Rupert Colville, said, "Anyway, the forced disappearance or murders, if this has happened, they're all very important crimes. And the only thing that we know is that this is the solid fact that Jamal Khashoggi went to the consulate and never left. or he was never seen again. So it's very likely that there was a crime committed there. We all need to know what happened, who is responsible, and where will the evidence take us.
And where the evidence leads.
The Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights and Rupert Colville spokesman said the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi happened 2 weeks ago on October 2, and today the High Commissioner of the United Nations, Michelle Bachelet, is urging the government of Saudi Arabia to reveal everything they know about the disappearance and possible murder of the Saudi journalist after visiting the consul laid off his country in Istanbul.
Under international law, both a forced disappearance and an
Under international law, both a forced disappearance and murders are important crimes, and immunity will not be used to stop investigations about this and who are responsible. 2 weeks is a long time for a crime scene for not being under a forensic investigation. Rupert Colville said, it seems that they allowed investigators to gather yesterday. Let's hope that there will be no immunity so that they can investigate everything they want to and everything they consider needed, both in the consulate, the facilities of the consul, the vehicles shown in the images, and others. So basically, investigators need to be able to look for everything they need. So the Agency of Human Rights of the United Nations requested Saudi Arabia and Turkey to reveal the information on the possible disappearance of Khashoggi, journalist. The Prime Minister of Armenia resigned to create a way for a quick election. Nikol Pashinyan said, "Beloved compatriots, people, citizens of Armenia, as I said today, I resigned the office of the Prime Minister of Armenia, and the objective is not to get rid of this responsibility, but to complete with the revolution with no violence through elections, parliamentary elections, as well as return the power to the people." I love you all. I am proud of all of you. Long live freedom. Long live the Republic of Armenia. Long live all children who will live and live happily and in peace. Armenia, August 24, 2018, Angela Merkel with Pashinyan, flowers, military band, the protocol for the representative of the Federal Republic of Germany. The Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, said on Tuesday that he was going to resign for his position to dissolve the parliament and to hold anticipated elections. The former leader of the opposition was in power due to voting of the parliament in May. Pashinyan said that the parliament does not show the reality of the country, and elections could be called in the Soviet Republic if the parliament fails twice for choosing a new prime minister and dissolve legislation. Germany, through with Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has taken responsibility to make agreements on the Brexit. This is Luxembourg. Michael Roth, journalist, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany, Michael Roth. It's actually for European matters. Speaking about what he said to Theresa May, take the responsibility and be constructive.
To lay out a case, and then they will clarify what they think is extremely important. We've had before.
He said, I think it would be important for her to have a discussion with the members of the European Council and then clarify what they consider extremely important. We've shared some agreements before December and in March to support this, and we're going to build on this. I think it's a possibility, but these matters have deep consequences in the future of the European Union and for the great future of Great Britain. He said, I think the European Union should do, and this is what the Commission has done, just take a look at their own interests, and their attitude should be the least harmful as possible, but some things need to be clarified. They cannot clarify elements of the internal market, the four freedoms. They need to ensure that what they do is in Libya with the fundamental principles of the treaty, and there cannot be any flexibility with these topics. Martin Callanan said, we are the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and we will not change this. There cannot be borders in the Sea of Ireland. We will not allow the European Union in position on this. Any custom matter that we negotiate will be temporary. This is a strong point that we have negotiated and will fulfill them.
They're the strong negotiating points that we have set out, and we will abide by them. How close are we to a deal?
Canciller de los Países Bajos,
Stef Blok, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands, said, well, there must be a moment for the treaty. It will be difficult for negotiations to be clear since the beginning. The position of Dutch has always been the European Union should be together to reach a Brexit agreement that would benefit both parties. The Netherlands are a commercial country with a strong relationship with the United Kingdom. That's why we want to have a negotiated Brexit, but at the same time, what we expect for this, we expect the worst, even though we hope for the best. So we are ready for a difficult Brexit. The Minister of France Foreign Affairs, Nathalie Loiseau, said, we are determined to reach a good agreement, and we believe it's possible, but it's urgent. The time of truth has come, but we are prepared for every possible scenario, including the lack of an agreement. Realistic. The Chancellor of Belgium, Didier Reynders, said, I hope that we will not have to go for the lack of an agreement. We have to be ready for this. Realistic. Everything must be done to reach an agreement.
No deal, mais on doit s'y préparer. Tout doit être fait pour trouver un accord, mais s'il faut passer par un no deal, on devra malheureusement s'y préparer.
If we need to get an agreement, unfortunately, be ready for it. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs met in Luxembourg on Tuesday, just 6 months before Great Britain abandons the European Union, and they were speaking about how to avoid the return of a strong border against the British for Northern Ireland, and they're a member of the European Union. May insist on this. The President of the British Parliament, John Bercow, will resign next summer, according to the local media, even though this date is not certain now. The eyes to the right, 305 of the nose to the left. So the eyes need to be unblocked.
Order.
The Chamber of the Commons. Zero tolerance for sexual harassment in Westminster or in any other place.
At Westminster or elsewhere. At its monthly meeting,
the
Baroness, I don't remember this, Nagy, what extraordinary things. It was a bad joke. So, very little quorum at the Commons.
John Bercow dice, no nos dirigimos a las personas
He said,
por
we're not
título de sus
addressing people
cónyuges.
by the
Canciller
title
en la
of
sombra,
their
si tiene un nombre.
spouses. They do have a name.
Sabemos cuál es su
If
nombre.
it's a lady,
Es
we know
inapropiado,
her name
francamente,
ends up
sexista,
inappropriate and
hablar en esos
sexist to
términos.
speak in these
No lo
terms.
quiero tener esto en esta cámara. Y al fin del
We don't
asunto
have this
está
in this
aquí.
chamber, and the end of the
Sin
matter is
importar
here.
qué tan antiguo sea un miembro,
It
ese
doesn't
lenguaje
matter
es ilegítimo
how
y no
old
lo
the member
permitiré.
is, it's not legitimate language, and I will not
Amado y
allow it.
objetado. Porque uno se refirió a otro diciéndole,
Because
bueno,
one
usted
called
es
the
el
other,
esposo de la
listen,
no sé
you are the
qué,
husband
se
of
salió del marco habitual.
something, and they went out of the
Las
framework.
sonrisas congeladas.
Smiles.
Y los ánimos, pese a que había muy poco quórum,
And even
estaban
though
muy
there wasn't a lot of quorum, things were difficult there. The Secretary of State of the United Kingdom,
foto de Bercow, que saluda al
picture
secretario
of
del Reino
Bercow,
Unido para Comercio Internacional,
with Secretary of the
llegando al
United Kingdom
servicio
for
de
Foreign
Westminster,
Trade
Ana
in
María
Westminster,
Bercow y su esposa,
Bercow
Sally
and his
Bercow,
wife, Tayyip
en
Erdogan,
Wimbledon,
in
foto
Wimbledon,
de Bercow en su
a
oficina en la
picture
Cámara de los
in
Comunes.
the office Chamber of
Hubo
Commons.
una muy poco elegante referencia
There
al apellido de la
was
esposa.
a
Y
reference
eso lo
to
paró en seco
the
el
wife's
speaker es el líder del debate.
surname, and the speaker leader of the debate
Caravanas de inmigrantes
was against the
hondureños
caravans of
arremeten
migrants
contra
of
su gobierno
Honduras
y
go against their
contra
government
Trump
and against Trump
antes de ser detenidos.
before being
Por lo
stopped.
menos el organizador principal de la caravana.
The main organizer of the
Migrantes hondureños
caravan,
caminando por la
migrants of
carretera en
Honduras,
Guatemala,
walking down the road in Guatemala.
El organizador es Bartolo Fuentes, un
That's
antiguo abogado
Bartolo
hondureño.
Fuentes, a former
Y en
lawyer.
Estipulas ya, 16 de octubre, migrantes hondureños
And the
caminando
migrants
por la
of Honduras
carretera y el
walking down the
cuento de
road,
nunca acabar, tratando de conseguir algo mejor para la vida.
trying to get something better for their life.
Esto es un dramón.
That is a very difficult situation. Trump has a corrupt government. They should sanction Honduras for taking these people to misery, for having them in the situation of misery. And he has a corrupt government with a great fraud there. While of this, they have killed people in the streets. A criminal government supported by Trump leads to this migration. They support a corrupt government. Sanctions are there already. Sanctions are already being suffered by these people. This is what was said by Bartolo Fuentes, lawyer. Migrant Wilfredo Izaguirre said, "We're headed towards Mexico. Mexico, as humans, please open the borders, please. The people are hungry." That's the right attitude. We want to work. Bartolomé Fuentes, former lawyer of Honduras, said, "These people are running away. They're not tourists. They don't need to fulfill the requirements of tourists. They are fleeing and saving their lives. And Mexico has always offered shelter for those persecuted. I don't know why they have this attitude today. Maybe the government is leaving and they don't care about doing whatever they want. But the right for shelter is universal." The organizer of the caravan of 100 migrants traveling from Honduras was apprehended on Tuesday, according to witnesses from Reuters. 3 officers of the Guatemalan police captured Bartolo Fuentes, French leader of the far left, Mélenchon, blames Macron for the police seizing of his apartment. This is the Mélenchon filed during the presidential campaign in the European Parliament. He said, "Sorry about how I look. I woke up at 7 and there was a movement. There were 7, 8, or 9 of us who were attacked at home with the pretext of the campaign account and my role as member of the European Parliament that go back 2 or 3 years."
Rappelez-vous de ça, les gens. Regardez bien ce qui se passe. Demain, vous verrez, les mêmes, ils trouveront une excuse ou une raison quelconque pour me foutre en cabane. Et en ce moment, il y a un nouveau gouvernement.
They're announcing a new government right now. The new government, the government of the violation of democracy. Not only me, Jean Mélenchon. This needs to be sent to Emmanuel Macron. I am the president of a group of the opposition in the National Assembly. I am a member of the Bush Parliament. I am a political leader with your program, and I have 7 million people with me. I am more than Jean-Luc Mélenchon. It's all these things, and they are attacking this. People singing resistance.
Bueno, sin límites, Francia a la izquierda.
So France to the left.
Jean-Luc Mélenchon dice.
Jean-Luc Mélenchon said,
No soy solo alguien de la calle, soy el presidente del
I'm
grupo
not
de
only
Francia
someone
en
from
el
the street and president of the group of
Parlamento,
friends in the parliament. I deserve the respect that comes with my position. My friends in the parliament here come to the headquarters of their party. They have the right to be here at their own offices. We've never tried to insult or threaten anyone, but many of us have been pushed, thrown to the ground, and this is what happened this morning.
Resistencia es una palabra que tiene una carga emocional muy fuerte en Francia.
Resistance is a very important word in France. To lose France,
Parlamento Europeo ahora
the European Parliament,
habla Mélenchon.
Mélenchon speaking.
Soy el candidato de la libertad.
I am the candidate of freedom and trust. The far-wing leader Mélenchon was on Facebook like when the police seized his apartment in Paris, and now the Parliament, the European Parliament, is bringing the news and complaints about this. So there are a lot of things to finish here. Jean-Luc Mélenchon and President Mélenchon are going against his solidarity with Venezuela and the workers of France. Apparently, Jean-Luc Mélenchon states that French President Emmanuel Macron is charging him for his solidarity with Venezuela and with the people of France. Let's remember that Macron requested the United Nations to attack Venezuela.
Parce que comme on me l'a dit l'autre soir à la télévision, quand je disais on pourrait parler de l'Union européenne, on m'a dit non, c'est l'ALBA qui intéresse les Français. Je comprends que l'extrême droite américaine qui a toujours considéré
I understand that the right wing of the United States want always to consider their back garden to South America, and this is not right because 18% of the oil that they have come from Venezuela, and they are afraid of seeing power acting independently there. A power that contradicts their will of domination. You need to see what's happening in Venezuela. Editorials of France and other puppets that repeat what they say here and there. Why are they doing so? Why are they speaking about Venezuela? Very honest person showing his support for Venezuela. What's their need to speak with the wolf pack? They attack me as they did before with Podemos and with everything they do, regardless of the wall of invisibility which they crash us. Every time someone in us raises their voice, where there's a perspective for a deep change in the government, they're always the same ones with the same reaction. The media party of the earth, where they get arguments against us because they're violent against men, always infamous against women. And he can bring people, a friend of Venezuela. Let's remember that Macron requested at the United Nations to attack Venezuela. Inherence of President Emmanuel Macron to continue the attacks against Venezuela. They all talked together to attack Venezuela, and he was one of the people dragged and requested to continue with its attacks. Emmanuel Macron, President of France, in his first intervention in the General Assembly of the United Nations, the first one, only spoke ill about Venezuela and interfered with our internal affairs. Likewise, Macron showed that he should not follow the dictatorship of President Nicolás Maduro. I don't know if he knows that Venezuela holds the record of elections that have been seen internationally. President Carter said that there's no better electoral system in the world than Venezuela. So what can you say against this, Macron? How terrible. This is what Emmanuel Macron needs to hide of Venezuelan militia, and we have spoken about this. According to a new study, the fight plan against poverty of Macron does not speak about the most important causes, and poor people in the streets of France are just showing this. This is what Macron is not seeing. The winter is harsh. There's the lack of unemployment, he said. Not even poverty has decreased. The file, this comes from 2016. People there trying to continue as they can in a community. Homeless people.
Alors que la hausse du chômage avec la crise économique de la fin des années 2000 avait conduit à augmenter la pauvreté, à l'inverse aujourd'hui.
The President of Observatory of Inequalities said there are two learnings that we can get from this report. First, an increase in employment after the crisis in the 2000s, which led to an increase in poverty. Today, the decrease in unemployment of 2015 has not led to reduction in poverty, and this is concerning. The second phenomena is that our conditions of poverty are here and they were not here before, and the current policies have not adapted to conditions as single parents or poor workers that work half-time and that are between jobs. They cannot follow behind the poverty threshold. No Rouge, France, a homeless person. This is in Paris, trying to get something to eat and to be warm when it's cold. At least warm food, a cup of coffee. Homeless women there, a man counting the pennies. Luis Morin said, Director of the Observatory said, evidence shows that this plan for poverty of the government does not contemplate poverty. The hard roots of poverty are unemployment, subemployment, lack of certainty, low income, difficulties for women especially, and working half-time with no other options. The poverty plan does not have the means to go to the core of difficulties. They have very little situations, and remember that there's 2 billion euros a year. And 2 months ago, the reduction of taxes on wealth, 5 billion euros have been just set for a small part of the population, so there is no means for this. It doesn't take the main areas. It doesn't tackle the root of the problem. This is a small hotel room, not a lot of budget, and these are the minority, the ones who can afford the hotel room. So the reality there is difficult. And Macron, well, I don't want to say anything about this. Think before speaking about Venezuela, Macron. So we want France, we love France, and there are people like this. Also during the Nazi occupation, there were many collaborators. Our beloved political and unique spacecraft still surprises us. In any case, thank you for allowing us to be there with you. Dossier comes from Studio 3 of Venezuela Televisión, VTV Victor Tango. Victor, the official channel of the Royal Park of Venezuela. Coming from the direct satellite that we had in Charneca since 1970, with the only civilian satellite for Latin America. And we had this in Camatagua. This is a historical fact for the students. We were the first ones in the hemisphere of doing so, and the only kamikaze who dared to do so was myself. It was the first time that the channel won the National Award of Journalism, which wasn't too bad for that time. Channel 8, VTV Dossier. Here I close Dossier, and let me tell all the people how we thank your fidelity on that side of the screen. You're there even though sometimes they change the schedule. So listen, for all of those who are there, how was this? How was this? Director, the floor is all yours. Thank you for that fidelity.